Good afternoon, everyone. This is Kim Riggy from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers at headquarters, and I am standing in as your host today for Eric Mucklow. This webinar is being recorded and will be uploaded to our video channel that can be accessed from the Sustainability and Energy website. The website can be accessed through the Mercy link at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. If you'd like to receive CEUs or learning units, they're available by filling out a quiz after a block of 5 webinars, and returning those quizzes along with your AIA number to the link that's on your screen. Presenting today, we have Mark Moszak from the Onyx group. Mr. Moszak is a principal and project manager with extensive experience managing multidisciplinary programs and project teams for the Army, Air Force, Navy, Marine, and other federal agencies, with recent work as JV team lead for the Germany Net Zero Energy Installation Plans. Mr. Moszak has supported military and public agency clients for over 25 years, performing advanced professional planning work on a variety of master and comprehensive plan assignments and complex planning studies, including region, installation, site, facility, building, transportation, land use, and energy analyses. Our presentation today will be covering net zero energy installation plans for Europe. The Europe District has been working with our master planning IDIQ since 2011, and by the end of this calendar year will have successfully completed over 10 net zero installation plans, which include energy audits, benchmarking, and a strategic action plan to identify and reach the target energy intensity unit for the entire installation. These comprehensive installation action plans will project efficiency and renewable audit opportunities installation-wide. They will perform payback savings analysis and savings investment analysis, establish an installation-wide building opportunity strategy, and identify installation EUI and WUI reduction trends and renewable enhancement trends. The process not only combines level 2 ash rate audits of 1 million square feet or more, but also results in the development of project programming documents for implementation of ECMs and distributed renewable opportunities on audited buildings. The plan is also supported by a sustainable framework plan that looks at master planning through the net zero lens of alternative transportation, green infrastructure, and renewable energy resources. We also have a couple other people presenting with us today, and I'll go ahead and hand the mic over to Mark, and he can go ahead and get the presentation started.
Thanks, Kim, and thank you all for joining us today. For introduction with Patricia, let me just introduce who she is. Patricia Donahue is the Sustainability Director at the North Atlantic Division up in New York. Rich Gafaldi is actually the Sustainability Manager for the Europe District Corps of Engineers. So we've been working directly with Rich Gafaldi along with the Europe District Planning Group on these net zero projects. And as Kim noted, both Patricia and Rich will be available for questions after we go through these. With that, let me just reintroduce myself. My name is Mark Moszak. I'm with the Onyx group. I'm actually the project manager on a number of these net zero efforts, net zero energy installation plans. And I represent really a triumvirate here, as you see on this first slide. The Onyx group, Stantec, and Tetra Tech. It is a true coalition and collaboration team that we think has enhanced the growth of this methodology that we'll be sharing with you today, and ensured the multiple disciplines and subject matter experts were focused on a common goal. Before I go into the presentation here, I do want to just point out this quote here on the first slide. There are a number of guiding principles that we used on our net zero energy installation plans. I think 3 elements here in this last sentence: addressing energy is operationally necessary, financially prudent, and essential to mission accomplishment. Those 3 were certainly at the core of our guiding principles. This slide identifies 6 installations and 8 projects that represent the effort or at least our effort in the 10 that you heard in the introduction of the net zero studies that are occurring in Europe. Over the past year and a half, this process has grown and certainly been refined through these efforts. We think, though, that overall the process has become a reliable and consistent process and methodology for net zero planning. And it is also unique to each installation, a methodology that is both comprehensive in its scope and additive in its ability to integrate past efforts. So these two slides I'm going to show here, without fancy animation here, is really a couple of opportunities to just acknowledge that the net zero studies that were done in Europe certainly adhere to the program priorities as shown in the pyramid logo that we're pretty familiar with net zero energy. Reduction at the top, efficiency with our conservation measures, recovery and cogeneration when possible, and then at the bottom of the triangle, renewable energy. The scope is certainly energy, but we've also included in our efforts in Europe water conservation and sustainability, both broadly and specifically, and we'll share some of that as we move through this presentation. Two of the core drivers, though, are represented with those two bars in the center, the demand and supply. The drivers here are the goal to reduce demand by 50% and to enhance fossil fuel supply, or actually just enhance supply with renewable energy replacing fossil fuels. That, sometime in the future, will lead to a net zero energy installation where building consumption has been reduced by 50% using that base year, and 100% of that energy is produced by renewable sources. If we reduce that base year by 50%, and we also enhance that base year by 50% renewables, that point in future will be supplying all of our demand with our renewable resources. And as the program lead, Paul Volkman at the Pentagon office likes to point out, net zero is certainly a journey, not a destination. As far as the methodology here, we're showing here on our solution slide a relatively simple diagram here with three simple steps. An audit step, a strategic plan step, and a project implementation step. You also see these reduction and enhancement arrows that are really threads that are carried throughout the process. Again, adhering to those core goals. You'll see as we go through the slides in the upper right-hand corner a gold box that will show either the reduction or the enhance gold box to sort of orient you where we're talking about the process. But as I noted, the process is oversimplified in this diagram, but full of a number of elements. And that's at the heart of the Europe net zero methodology, is that it is a comprehensive attempt to bring a number of elements together. The efficiency and conservation and renewable audits, through our field investigation and data assessments, that covers building conservation, building and land-based renewables, as well as some of our sustainability assessment and analysis installation-wide. Step two is our sustainability framework and action plans. The SFP, or Sustainable Framework Plan, is a net zero planning context that is concurrent with some of what we do with the audit and the project implementation, and it provides that installation-wide context for net zero. The action plans are also, in step two, scalable, and that really points out the fact that we are looking at single facilities and buildings, we are looking at an audited building set. The introduction, Kim noted 1 million square feet is typical with our first audit set, when an installation might be 4 or 5 to 7 million square feet total. And we're looking installation-wide. And that's a key element of the Europe approach, is that the strategic plan is looking at installation-level perspective of net zero. And we'll get into that with some of our trend towards target. And then lastly, the third step is project implementation. And that's where we bring the plans back to execution with engineering accuracy. The next slides that we're going to go through will describe this process, but also show some examples of some of our outcomes. So these next two slides, this one is the efficiency audit. This is where we focus on ASHRAE Level 2 audits. And the point I would like to make here is what makes these ASHRAE Level 2 audits unique. Certainly the pilot programs and some of the net zero initiatives in the States have addressed ASHRAE audits and done Level 2 audits as a component of net zero planning. What makes these unique is that our ASHRAE Level 2 audits are really the foundation support to the overall demand consumption goal and objective of the net zero plan as a whole. We analyze 7 building systems, and we use the various building types that are tied to energy as an organizing element of the audits that is carried through into our strategic plan. We use Level 2 so that we use cost and performance measures. The cost and savings data are also a statistical sample source for our installation building conservation strategy, or our action plan. And last but not least, the audits also lead to our conservation projects in step 3. This is just real quickly a slide that shows you the 7 building systems that we're looking at. Those top 6 systems are energy systems, and the last, plumbing, is our 7th is our water conservation. So when we're looking for energy conservation measure opportunities and water conservation measure opportunities, we're evaluating day and night operations. We basically take the audit process of 1 million square feet generally, and we have a separate findings report with specifications. And as I noted, we're doing about 1 million square feet each audit set when we're doing a net zero plan, a kickoff, as well as a plan upgrade. And we're using the representative installation building types so that we're ensuring that the buildings that are selected to be audited cover the broad spectrum of installation building types for each location. So the renewable audits. The next 3 slides, this one included, are just highlighting some of what the renewable audit is doing in that step 1. Again, they are foundational support, but in this case, they're foundational support to enhance energy supply with renewables. In this case, it's a survey of very different from the efficiency and conservation audits. This is actually looking at buildings as platforms for solar thermal, solar PV, geothermal, either at or adjacent to buildings, as well as biofuels. We're looking at building orientation, though, specifically electric suitability, roof structures, site characteristics for the buildings as platforms for renewable energy technology. Building and land-based potential is assessed and is supportive to the strategic plan step 2. And lastly, the audited buildings will be used to develop and bundle renewable, at least distributed renewable projects, as well as our audited land-based and utility-based projects. So here are the parameters of some of what we do in the renewable audit. As you can see in the pictures, the top picture, we're looking at roof planes. In this case, this particular building is a rectilinear building, and so we've got really 2 roof planes that we're looking at. And as the bottom picture highlights, we're looking at attic space, the structural stability of buildings to take on renewable structures. Electric infrastructure is also part of that audit, as well as PV-SYST modeling that we do for production opportunity. This last slide on renewables is highlighting some of the output of our PV modeling. This is the audit set, and what you're seeing in those blue dots is each roof plane on each building that we've audited. So within 1 million square feet, we're ranging at the various installations that we've done anywhere from 14 to 15 buildings to as many as 75 or 76 buildings. So each roof plane within each building ends up with hundreds of these blue dots. What that red square in the middle is showing sort of what is the optimum orientation to the southern sun. And so we look at insolation and how that affects the building inventory. We do this at both the installation wide scale and in this diagram, the audited building set. Those are the slides on the first step, audit. This is our first slide on our second step, and that is strategic plan. Now, strategic plan has a number of elements and components in our European net zero energy installation plans. This one is the Sustainability Framework Plan, or SFP. It is the sustainable net zero planning for the installation that provides context to what the audits and the strategic building conservation and renewable action plans provide in much more of an engineering based concept. The SFP is really for the master planners, site planners, and what we use is we use stakeholder workshops, condition assessments, planning methods, installation plans. We're not doing a full master plan or area development plan, but we are complementing that process with very specific net zero focused strategies, and those are, for a number of the efforts we've done, alternative transportation, renewable solar development impacts, green infrastructure, operational consolidation. So you see a number of pictures of some of our workshops. You see some of our analysis. The one on the far right shows how some of our solar infill development analysis is comparing traditional infill with solar consideration of building placement and orientation to sun. Our goal here is to have measurable outcomes with physical improvements installation-wide that have applicable planning methods that can be applied certainly to our current installation plans that we develop, but in future area development, master plan, and site plans as well. So now I'm going to show you a number of slides on our action plans, the other part of our strategic plan effort in Europe. The first slide is on renewable, and then I'm going to follow with 7 relatively quick slides on our installation building conservation action plan. But let me just highlight here for renewables. So we're talking about our threads. As I noted in our first couple of slides, our solution has a renewable thread, or enhancing our renewable supply, and we have a demand reduction thread. So our renewable thread is carried out in our strategic plan with a number of renewable action plans. We start first and foremost, though, with a technology assessment and site suitability analysis. This is shown by these boxes on this particular slide, where we do an initial assessment of solar, wind, biomass, geothermal, hydropower, and we're actually using this as a filter opportunity. We don't want to look at every building solar potential if it's not practical across, let's say, 25% of the buildings because of solar orientation or insulation of the particular region. And the same goes with wind and other resources. is what's unique to the region and the installation specifically. Let's filter out those technologies and resources initially, determine which ones we should carry forward. We'll then do site suitability analyses on those. So for example, we'll look at distributed rooftop PV, photovoltaics. We'll look at utility and ground-mounted photovoltaics, PV. We'll look at rooftop thermal if that's practical. CHP retrofits to biomass, ground loop and heat pumps, and micro hydro are other examples of those assessments and site suitabilities. The other element that we do is a production baseline for renewable. I'm going to share with you in a couple of slides we do a consumption baseline as well, but we also do a production baseline for renewables. And what that is we assess all of the pre-existing renewable projects that have occurred at the installation or potentially in the community surrounding if they have not been done at the installation. And we really look at the annual production value of those existing installations. Those are real good baselines for determining and comparing our new opportunities. We then look at distributed renewable opportunities as well as utility grade renewable opportunities. Lastly, we look at our supply trend towards target. So if our target is 50% enhancement of renewables in our supply chain, then what is the real practical opportunity for the installation? And we do some installation modeling to determine that. So I'm going to use the next 7 slides to show you quickly how we do this strategic plan, how we do the action plan on the reduction or demand reduction thread. And that is through this Building Conservation Action Plan. In this slide, this kind of outlines the actual action plan process. We do a projection of the audit results. So we've audited 1 million square feet. We've done a level 2 ASHRAE audit, and we have cost numbers in dollars, capital costs. We have savings in dollars and kVA and kilogallons for water, as well as really we roll it up to MMBTU for energy and kilogallons for water. We project those opportunities across the entire installation inventory so that we're looking at an installation view as well as the audited building set. We then run through 3 analyses: a payback savings analysis, a savings investment analysis, and we look at audited and installation-wide building opportunity as a way to think about packaging, prioritizing, bundling the various opportunities we're finding at the audits that we project installation-wide, and then we think about for projects. The last thing we do in this strategic plan is identify installation EUI, everyone should know these, EUI and WUI, energy use intensity and water use intensity reduction. And we use baselining to do that as well. So this is an example of the output of one of our payback savings analyses. The vertical axis is our annual installation EUI savings. Our horizontal axis is our payback, simple payback in years. What you see here is in these circles, so that large green circle on the upper left and these purple and red dots, those are installation-wide conservation groups of opportunity. So that's a building envelope, and the size of that circle is our capital cost for installation-wide building envelope opportunities. And then we lay those out across the payback, and you can see we use, in Europe, we've been able to use relatively simple 10-year simple payback or better, a 10 to 20, and 20 or greater. We've certainly done other breakdowns of this. We've done 10 to 15 years, 16 to 20, 21 and greater. There's different ways to break down those years, and that's based on the system life cycles as well as some of our funding program opportunities. but this allows us to look installation-wide what the 10-year or better payback, those are our highest priority in green, and then our purple, 10 to 20 year, and then we'll set aside our 20 plus for our straightforward SRM funding. And in Europe, a lot of the effort has been placed on, and you'll see in our final slides, SRM funding of initial projects. We then take that 10-year or better payback conservation measure opportunities across the installation, and we rank the savings investment ratio of those. So we all know that if you have a savings investment ratio of 1 or greater, that over the lifespan, the savings will pay back the capital cost. And in this case, this is allowing us to look at each bar here is one of those installation-wide conservation groups, and we are able to say if we have limited resources, focus in on one or more of these top or higher SIR groups. And so it's our chance to prioritize our opportunity. Lastly, we do our building opportunity analysis. And as you can see, we have our conservation measure group, and that's made up of multiple building types. So you are hearing conservation groups and building types carry through from the audits to the strategy, and they'll be picked up again in the projects. And you can see on the far right, we're using audited buildings and unaudited buildings. So we're really quantifying all of the potential opportunity and individually as well as collectively what some of the capital cost and savings are associated with these. And this allows and provides in a non-proprietary spreadsheet an opportunity for the installation to think about their projects, group projects now, as well as into the future. I'm going to talk really quickly here about our consumption baselines component of our strategic plan. This allows us to think about trend towards target, but it also takes a look at what we all know is our reported installation EUI and WUI numbers, and our glide paths that we measure. So our 3% a year, up to 15% for certain fiscal years, and then this is our 50% demand reduction trend. So this is our consumption baseline that'll be one of the elements that we compare. A couple of notes here. We're using utility meter readings when we have them, and what you see in those gray and red bars are building types, and that's thermal and electrical consumption. We also do a similar water one. On the far left, you see something that's unique to Europe, and that is these energy Ausweis. These are the energy performance certificates. For each of the audited buildings, we're doing these energy performance certificates, and we calculate the energy engineering reality of each of those buildings. And you can see on a little slight glide scale there, green, yellow, red, it calculates the thermal, electrical, and even water engineering numbers for each building. Now this is a handshake with, there's actually EU law, and each country facilitates a law where all public buildings will post these certificates. So the Army installations are providing a handshake, but it also gives us some numbers for the consumption baseline if we don't have meter readings. And then lastly, we're using CBEX as a calculated survey approach to get those consumption building numbers when we don't have meters or energy performance certificates. And then lastly, you see on the sort of upper right here is we do some quick division, and we come up with our installation EUI for our base year, and we're using pretty traditionally, we've been doing this for a year and a half, so most of our base years are FY13, but we get to reconfirm that glide path for FY13. So now you can see that installation EUI translated into our trend towards target. And you see that red bar on the far left. That's our base year FY13 EUI of 73. And if our trend towards target is 50%, then we need to cut that number in half to 36.5 EUI. Now, the reality here is through our projection modeling, we're able to look at each conservation measure group, and you see here each of those blue sets of boxes with a blue arrow is light blue is the audited building set, and the dark blue is the unaudited building set across the entire installation. And we first do trend towards target of fastest to target. So building envelope in this particular example is the fastest to target with the most EUI reduction. And then overall, we're realizing that this installation, and I believe this was Hohenfeld's installation, is going to be, instead of 50%, the reality through our modeling is 42.5%. So it's a real installation target view of what the potential installation-wide conservation measure opportunity is. Now you add to this your energy awareness that can run from everything from 4% to as high as 20%, depending on what you're looking at, to other efforts like exterior lighting and that. But from building conservation technology opportunities across those 7 building systems, we're getting 42% projected reduction at Hohenfeld's for them. Another view of that trend towards target is for the 10-year or better simple payback. So this is an opportunity to look at the economic influences of payback and savings investment, and instead of nearly 49% reduction, or 43% reduction in the previous example, this is the same installation, and for those opportunities across the installation that are just payback of 10-year or better, we're getting as high as 28% installation EUI reduction. So we're still getting a very positive reduction, but it's a real economic view of that reduction. The next couple of slides, I'm going to kind of conclude the process, and I apologize for going fast, but we want to be able to give you a summary of this process. You're seeing a lot of the same elements and components that probably have been done, certainly at the 9 NZEI installations CONUS, and maybe some of what you're doing across various installations stateside. But we're showing that they are brought together in a comprehensive and collaborative process. So the last step in the process is project implementation. And this is the reality check for every great plan leads to very good things, but really comes to be an execution plan. And that's really where we see where can we spend money to save money and make a net zero energy installation plan really come alive. And so what we provide is, this is an example, that picture on the right is they're using 4283s. These are work requests for SRM funding. So we're all familiar with 1391s. This is a 4283 because most of the Europe division or Europe district net zero plans are focused on SRM funding, at least for these initial execution projects. So what's noted on these first 2 bullets is we're coming back to the audited building set, and we're doing conservation measures grouped by building system, and we're doing distributed renewable opportunities bundled across those same audited building sets. So it's not installation-wide. We still want the projects for the installation to be based on strong engineering principles, and that can be accomplished by having strong level 2 audit results. So we're focused now back on execution. On the first set of execution, even though we've seen installation-wide perspectives of the opportunity, we're focused on those projects for those audited buildings. We're now doing life cycle cost analyses. We're doing full payback and full life cycle costing. whereas most of our installation analysis at the audit and strategic plan level was simple payback and simple SIR. And that leads to these 4283s with project descriptions and specific building numbers identified, as well as referencing to the specifications for conservation and the actual technology for renewable. Another element of the project execution plan is what we call our sustainable return on investment matrix. So a lot of what you're seeing in the work that we do for net zero is return on investment. So whether it's 10-year or better payback, or 10 to 15-year, 15 to 20, or even higher than 20-year, whether we're combining those for SRM funding or ESIPs, or we're putting them out for bid for ESCOs or UESC opportunities, we're traditionally thinking in terms of economic return on investment. And certainly we've got the SFP, the Sustainability Framework Plan, installation planning context for net zero. But here's an opportunity to actually score our projects for the installation based on sustainability factors. Now, there are 9 factors that we aren't always able to assign dollar values to. And so those are listed there: available funding, behavior, community, okay, energy security, environmental benefit, financial. For each of those 9, we have various indicators, and we provided a simple scoring mechanism so that if, for example, 2 projects, a building envelope project and a lighting fixtures project for 14 buildings, both have the same simple payback and both have the same SIR, if the SROI score for one is 80 and the other is 50, then the one with 80 has more sustainability opportunity than the one with 50. It's a simple 1 to 100 scoring, and allows us to qualify those projects, quantify and qualify those projects, or at least the sustainability elements of those projects, in addition to the traditional return on investment. So lastly, I just want to share here that before I open it up to questions, that our process is a comprehensive net zero energy installation plan methodology that has been tested and tried across at least 10, and we've done up to 8 of those, with a methodology that runs through engineering audits, both on our conservation building side and efficiency side, as well as renewable, to strategic planning side, covering installation-wide sustainability framework planning, baselining, as well as action plans, and then execution of those plans with very specific projects to get them started at the installation. It is savings and sustainability, providing customer value both at the building and installation view. We think we have the most comprehensive philosophy for net zero. Now, that's not to say that this isn't truly additive to any effort. A number of our plans have been updates where we've taken other audit efforts, other renewable project efforts, done additional audits, provided new audit and installation models and projections, and integrated them into a full comprehensive net zero solution. So with that, I open up to questions, and I know Patricia, hopefully if her mic has been fixed, and then Rich is available for questions.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Mark. I'm going to go ahead and open up the question session here. So if anyone has any questions, go ahead and type in the questions. I'll be able to see the questions, and for the sake of the recording, I'll go ahead and read the questions aloud, and then either Mark, Patricia, or Rich will be able to answer. So if you do have a question for one of those specific people, just go ahead and address it in the question, and I'll make sure to get that across. While I give you all some time to type in your questions if you have any, I'm going to go ahead and go over a couple of the links we have on the website here. The first, in the web links area, we do have a link to the Army Net Zero Energy Roadmap website. And then we also have, at the bottom, we have the Army directive that speaks to net zero installations. So those are two good ones to have there. And then we also have links to the past webinar videos, our Mercy site, the Sustainability and Energy site. And then we also have, you can also email us at s_e-webinar@usace.army.mil. If you have any questions or comments, you can go ahead and email us there. I'm going to go ahead and give a little bit of time here to see if we have any questions pop up. So far I haven't seen any yet, so.
Kim, as you're reviewing questions, one last comment that I think I can share here is that the resources that we've summarized here with the Europe Net Zero Energy Installation Plan process can be thought of as a toolkit that is now available to the multiple installations out there, that as now these the 9 net zero CONUS pilots and these 10 European pilot efforts have occurred, the installations that are looking to do net zero now have a broad range of opportunity to reach out and find out how things were done and pick from a number of toolkit possibilities. This one with Europe, with the net zero plan process methodology that has been perfected with the Bavarian military community, is one that it provides a comprehensive approach that is both additive to existing initiatives as well as a starter place for those installations that have not been able to start on their net zero energy installation plans.
Okay, and we do have one more comment that Patricia wanted me to get across to you guys, and that the Army pilot data is available in the link provided, and that information just came out last week, so it's brand new there, so that might be something good to take a look at to see where the Army is going as a whole. Other than that, we haven't had any questions pop up, so unless, Mark, you have any last minute thoughts or anything, we might go ahead and end the session here.
Thank you, Kim. No, we're good on this end. I want to thank everyone for listening in. Our team is available to answer any questions, and certainly Rich Gafaldi or Patricia Donahue are available to answer questions specifically about how the Europe Core district might have done the effort, or from Patricia's perspective, how the division and other district efforts could be accomplished. thank you again for the opportunity to share this methodology.
Thank you so much, Mark, and thank you everyone for signing in and listening.